Interesting development in the LATAM Airlines in-flight upset that happened earlier this week. News reports are indicating that investigators are now beginning to look at an inadvertent actuation of one of the pilots' seats on board the aircraft that caused a bunting of the aircraft, or a forward stick motion that pinned many passengers who weren't properly wearing their seatbelts onto the ceiling and injuring them, and then injuring more passengers when the passengers pinned to the ceiling fell down upon the other passengers who were properly strapped into their seats. Let's check it out. Fine-tuning of the seat adjustment is critical in transport category aircraft so that you align your eyes properly with the instrument panel, and in many cases the heads-up display, like in the 787, the glare shield, and the runway below you on a 3-degree glide path, especially when you're coming in low visibility conditions. But in cruise, you can relax and move that seat back to any adjustment you want to remain comfortable. The fore and aft adjustments and up and down adjustments in the Boeing 777 and in the 787 are done electrically with switches located on the inboard side of the seats. There's also mechanical adjustments for lumbar support and thigh support as well, and a recline feature. But what I didn't know about the Boeing 787 is that there is this additional switch located underneath the cover in the back upper portion of the seat that allows you to move the seat all the way back and to the outboard side to allow you to get into the seat. Normally in the old 777, you would have to lean forward and find the normal controls located on the inboard side of the seat and move the seat out of the way. Here's a video illustrating how this works. You pop open the cover and you push the rocker switch to the outboard side for the captain's seat, and that moves the seat all the way up and out of the way. So conversely, if you push that rocker switch the other direction, it'll roll the seat forward. So was there a third person in the cockpit at the time of this incident? Was it mealtime? Was there a flight attendant bringing the meals up to the cockpit crew that could have possibly inadvertently hit that rocker switch? Hopefully maintenance crews at LATAM have pulled the circuit breaker to the cockpit voice recorder, because with the cockpit voice recorder coupled with the flight data recorder, investigators will be able to quickly determine exactly what happened here, especially if this was the case. In Boeing aircraft, rather crudely, when we take our meals, we got to set the meal in our lap. So we got to roll the seat way back, make room, and set the meal right on top of your legs there. And hopefully you don't get that gravy all over your uniform. Now, if you're a privileged Airbus pilot, you get a complete fold-out tray table located right here, because you've got a side stick controller over here on the right. So this gives you a lot more room to enjoy your meal. Man, I'm getting hungry just looking at these meals. Now, it was initially reported by one of the passengers that the pilot came back and said that he lost his screens. His screens briefly went blank and then reappeared, which got people to thinking about this airworthiness directive that applies to the Boeing 787. And this AD, or Airworthiness Directive, which came out in May of 2020, says that the FAA has received a report indicating that stale data monitoring function of the CCS may be lost when the aircraft is continuously powered on for 51 days. This could lead to an undetected or unenunciated loss of CDN message age validation, combined with a CDN switch failure. The CDN handles all the flight critical data, including airspeed, altitude, attitude, and engine operation. And several potentially catastrophic failure scenarios can result from this situation, including misleading primary attitude data for both pilots, misleading altitude on both pilots' primary flight displays, misleading airspeed data on the pilot's flight displays, misleading engine operation indications on both engines. But it doesn't say anything about bunting the aircraft over. The potential loss of the stale data monitoring function of the CCS when continuously powered on for 51 days, if not addressed, could result in erroneous flight critical data being routed and displayed as valid data, which could reduce the ability of the flight crew to maintain the safe flight and landing of the airplane. So the FAA approved fix for this is to simply power down, make sure that the aircraft is powered down completely at least once every 51 days. And this is what we used to call the old IBM reboot, and it was common in Airbus aircraft as well. If you couldn't get a particular system to work at the gate, you could power down the entire aircraft and reboot it, and often maintenance would get the situation resolved doing this procedure. If this switch was inadvertently actuated by somebody entering the cockpit, it could easily shove that pilot right into that yoke and bunt the aircraft forward. The autopilot would be engaged at cruise flight, but if you force that autopilot over hard enough, it will disengage. And man, if it disengages in an out of trim situation like this, it's gonna disengage with gusto, violently, nose down. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. See you here.